After a couple of slower paced chapters, One Piece chapter 995 delivered with an amazing, densely packed chapter from beginning to end. And there's a lot to break down in this chapter, but of course with this chapter review, we start at the top. One Piece chapter 995 called A Kunoichi's Oath. Of course this ties into Nami's big moment at the end of the chapter with what she did and her being a Kunoichi during Wano. But let's start with the cover page, and I say cover page because there is no cover story this chapter. As we saw last chapter, the Pound Capone Beige cover story has officially come to an end. Now it looks like Oda is gonna get into some of these cover page requests, which makes sense. He just came off of a cover page story. This one is Luffy trying to study with some monkeys, and of course it's not gonna work. It's a cute little cover page. What I'm really curious is, what do you guys think is gonna be the next cover story, and what do you want it to be? Let me know in the comments below. But jumping into the story, we start off with a Big Mom and Marco fight, and I don't know, I saw some people like saying that Marco and Big Mom weren't actually gonna fight, like based off of their last interaction of how it was kind of civil. But to me it was like there's no way they're gonna walk away from that interaction and not fight each other. Marco wasn't gonna just let Big Mom, this absolute monster, go off and like go find Luffy and destroy him. So it made absolute sense to me that this clash happened, and it's a nice little fight that we get to see here. I love the mutual respect that Big Mom and Marco have showcased for each other back before, where Big Mom was saying Marco was a man of your caliber helping the Straw Hats, and in this clash here Marco is saying, hey, I don't really know what my role in this war is yet, but I know I gotta stop you right here right now because I know how dangerous you are. That not only re-emphasizes Big Mom's strength and the power of a Yonko, but it also gets me excited for maybe previous interactions of the Whitebeard pirates and the Big Mom pirates, which Sparrow also later on teases. There's just so much story to explore in One Piece and so much more I want to see. But yeah, Marco's really proven himself a little bit in this Big Mom fight, going head to head with her using the Phoenix Flames. He's actually able to injure Prometheus as well, which is very interesting actually. Marco's fruit, if you think about it might be the most defensive fruit that we've seen, and showing its attack capabilities here, while we already know he does have that from what he showcased back in Marineford, clashing with a Kainu, but him actually like kind of explaining it a little bit of saying like how his flames are unique and how he's damaging Prometheus, it's kind of cool and really goes to show just how strong that fruit is. But at the end of the day, Big Mom is a Yonko. She just quickly turns the tables on him, just grabs him by the throat and holds him up. What's interesting here though is she has Sparrow to attack him and kill him instead of like launching another attack herself, which I feel would be more effective. But nevertheless, Sparrow does create like a bow and arrow made out of candy, and looks like he applies hockey to the arrow, which yeah, that would damage Marco, but he would really just heal it back really quick. We've rarely seen Marco being damaged without like the Sea Stone cuffs. The only people I think we've seen hurt Marco when he's not restrained by Sea Stone cuffs is Garp and also Blackbeard, so just two absolute monsters and nobody else. But yeah, Sparrow makes a candy bow and arrow here. I think if he launched that attack, Marco definitely wouldn't have died. But Sparrow does make another comment about saying how ironically he wanted to kill Marco in the past, which once again gets me really excited for the previous interactions of the Whitebeard pirates and the Big Mom pirates. This is a part of the reason I feel like we need to see more from the Whitebeard pirates and explore their story a little more, because there's a lot more there that we could see and really enjoy. But yeah, Sparrow's about to fire off this arrow, but before he's able to do that, Karen and Wanda arrive in their Sulong forms, and these two slash the hell out of Sparrow. That is a brutal ass attack. They cut him like right in between the eyes like 4 times, and it's just like, it's almost like he has like an eye mask now with like just blood. So they stop his attack, and of course it's always badass seeing another Sulong form. Sulong Carrot is amazing. I love that design. Sulong Wanda on the other hand, kind of cool. I don't know if it's been like this for you guys, but to me the Sulong forms after Carrot, like it kind of lost its surprise element. Even like Neko and Inu kind of look like exactly what I expected. So pretty much the same thing for Wanda here. Her Sulong form gets revealed, which is cool and all, but nothing surprising. But after Carrot and Wanda attack Sparrow has a moment where he recognizes Carrot of saying, oh, you're that mink from like Whole Cake Island, I'm assuming, which is cool to see. Carrot got a little bit of a clout now, maybe kind of foreshadowing her getting a bounty after Wano. Meanwhile, Big Mom herself seems to recognize Sulong form and what that is, which doesn't surprise me. She had Peccoms in her crew, and she's somebody who's really interested in all these different races, so I'm sure she would have found out something about the minks. Pedro and Zeppo also arrived in Whole Cake Island before as well, so maybe she found out some information there. But yeah, interesting little tidbit there, Big Mom recognizing Sulong. But for Carrot and Wanda, obviously them attacking Sparrow wasn't for the sole purpose of saving Marco. They want to get revenge on Pedro. And I gotta say, I really love Sparrow's reaction here, because he's like, yo, I did not kill Pedro. That man blew himself up. If anything, it's not my fault. It's you guys' fault for not being strong enough to protect you guys, so he had to sacrifice himself. Blame that blonde dude that got himself captured. If he didn't get himself captured, you didn't have to come to Whole Cake Island in the first place, so it's definitely not my fault. If anything, hey, I'm the one that lost the arm over here. And you know what? Perospero makes a good point, because if you look back at that scene, Perospero didn't even go out of his way to attack Pedro. It was Pedro that went to attack Perospero to try and protect the Straw Hats and eventually blew himself up. So honestly, Perospero was just acting in self-defense the whole time, and now he's being blamed for Pedro's death, so he's rightfully pissed. But obviously, Carrot and Wanda are not gonna give a damn about that, and they're still gonna try to fight him. Meanwhile, you got Marco saying, "Who the hell are you?" to Carrot, because they don't know each other. That's another thing about this war. It just goes to show there's so many people part of this war, like different people on the same side don't even recognize each other. Of course, Carrot quickly clears that up by mentioning Nekomamushi, but as this interaction is going down, Big Mom turns on the jets and dashes past Marco and runs away. Now, I know some people are gonna bag on her for running away, and she does make a comment about her not having enough souls to fight Marco right now, which, to be honest with you, I don't really know what she's talking about. Is she talking about like homies or like enough soul power? Like, if she's just referring to homies, I don't know how effective they would be against Marco, or is there another element of her soul fruit that we just don't know and that she's kind of foreshadowing here? That's definitely something to look out for in the official. But Big Mom running away here is obviously not like she's afraid of Marco or something. I think like she even says herself, it's really her being on the sidelines this whole time. She's like sick and tired of being on the sidelines. She wants to get to the main action and go and attack Luffy. In a way, it's almost like she's saying, I'm sick and tired of being a side character in Kaido's arc, being used for all these gags. Let me showcase my power. The community is flaming me right now. I gotta show off some of my powers. So yeah, Big Mom turns on the jets, dashes past Marco, and runs towards the main entrance. Meanwhile, Wanda says, don't worry Marco, you could go after her, we'll take care of Perospero. So as many of us expected, it looks like we're gonna get this matchup of Wanda and Carrot versus Perospero. Now for me, this could go two ways. It could easily go the way of Carrot and Wanda are able to step up, and specifically Carrot surpass her own limits and somehow defeat Perospero. Because this matchup is not gonna be easy, even with the two of them together in Sulong forms. Perospero is a 700 million berry bounty person, probably right below the Sweet Commanders in terms of power, and has shown to be one of the more capable people of the Big Mom Pirates. So Carrot and Wanda, they only got 3 minutes of Sulong. I don't really know if that's enough to overcome Perospero. Carrot overcoming her limits here and getting a shining moment in Wano is pretty much a do or die for me in terms of her becoming a Straw Hat. And I do see the possibility of, first off, maybe they face like a reality check, which is something we see later in the chapter, and Perospero kind of overwhelms them, but then Carrot gets this second win somehow and overcomes her weaknesses and defeats Perospero and gets her like a big moment worthy of a Straw Hat. Now I could also see it going the other way, where Perospero just overwhelms the both of them and they are defeated. It's a big harsh reality check, and then maybe kind of forces Carrot and Wanda to come to this realization of like their revenge for Pedro is not really a real thing. I think it's possible the story goes either way there. Now for me, I'm a fan of Carrot. I want her to be a Straw Hat, so I would love to see her get this big moment and defeat Perospero, but how likely that is, it's really up in the air. And then the last thing we see in this scene is Marco seeing the ice demons and people turning into these ice demons. So this tells me Marco's gonna be held up for a bit trying to help these people. I don't think he's just gonna walk away from them, especially with his own powers of healing. I still think Chopper is the one that will develop the cure and solve this issue. I think Marco would definitely do his part in slowing down this plague and helping some people out. But that does mean somebody else has to slow down Big Mom. Honestly, not a lot of people are capable of that. Now, we have not seen Law or Kid or Killer and those guys, so maybe they show up and are able to slow down Big Mom for a bit and kind of showcase their strength a little bit. If Kid does it, he could kind of maybe give us a little backstory on what he did in Big Mom's territory. So I think that's where it's going. Marco being slowed down a bit to try to help people, and then somebody else needing to slow down Big Mom. But next we cut to the live hall where Zoro is still chasing after Apu, which big ups to Zoro, he has not gotten lost yet. I thought it was a possibility that he would have, but he's still chasing after Apu, but he is a little behind right now, so he ends up launching the 720-pound cannon attack, which Apu ends up dodging, and he just keeps running, and he's like sensing all this murderous intent around him, so he's pissed off at Queen. Friends and enemies alike are asking for the antidote, but of course Apu doesn't care. He doesn't want to be killed by Queen, so he just keeps running away, actually launches a boom attack, I think on some beast pirates as well, but that attack does not work on Drake and Zoro, who comes dashing through and simultaneously attack Apu, which forces Apu to bust out some tonfas. I don't know if I'm pronouncing pronouncing that right, but these like baton-like sticks that he uses, and he blocks off both of them, which once again really goes to show not only the strength of the supernova, but also the strength of Kaido's crew and who is part of it. The theme of this video is kind of a reality check for the Straw Hats, and this moment for me was kind of a reality check for me because I really want to see a Brook versus Apu fight, but in this scene right here, we're seeing Apu's powers and him blocking off Zoro and Drake, so you might be thinking it's really not like realistic for somebody like Brook to all of a sudden fight Apu, but I still think it's possible for Brook to gain some advantages and kind of even out the playing field and fight Apu and win. But for right now, it looks like we're getting Zoro and X Drake versus Apu. Now, it's probably more likely gonna be just X Drake versus Apu. These two seem to have more of a connection. Also, you got Zoro once again saying he just wants to go and help Kinemon and get to the top of the dome, and he's wasting time here. So if you haven't seen enough foreshadowing now that Zoro is gonna at least be in that fight against Kaido, I think you're just turning a blind eye. So Zoro will probably trail off in this battle eventually soon. Meanwhile, Drake and Apu, they're kind of beefing a little bit, saying we didn't like each other. Drake goes into hybrid form and he kind of gets serious, so I think this will be his at least preliminary fight here. I still think it's possible that maybe Who's Who comes in and he becomes the main fight for Drake, and then maybe Brook has to come in and go after Apu, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Meanwhile, you have this moment with Queen looking at the bounty posters of Sanji and Zoro and pointing them out as the second and third strongest of the Straw Hat crew, so big moment for the Monster Trio fans. What's funny here is he's kind of judging the strength based off the bounties, which Sanji has a higher bounty right now, so he's probably actually referring to Sanji as the second strongest. Oda knows exactly what he's doing here and playing up that rivalry and making Twitter go wild. It is interesting to me that Queen did not consider Jinbei at all, considering he has a higher bounty than both of them. I know Jinbei didn't come in and like officially announce himself as part of the Straw Hats while in Onigashima, but he was standing with the crew in that double page spread, so I guess you could probably make the connection, but I guess Queen didn't. What's more interesting here is Queen pointing out Vinsmoke Judge and Sanji's connection to him. Now, like many others, I've said this in the past, but Queen and his abilities to create these diseases of the mummy and the ice demon, it's terrifying, but it's also very impressive. Like, that is some great scientific advancements that he's making to create these crazy ass diseases. And I said in my Kaido's Commanders video that it's definitely possible that Queen has some sort of connection to Vegapunk, because as we've seen in the story so far, every single smart person like Caesar and Judge have had some sort of connection to Vegapunk before. So Queen mentioning Judge here isn't surprising for multiple reasons. First off, the Germa, I'm guessing they have some clout, so Queen probably just knows Judge. Judge and the Vinsmoke were somebody that Big Mom went after, so it's not surprising Queen knows them. But I'm very interested in Queen's past and how he learned all this stuff about diseases. Did he have a previous relationship with Judge? And perhaps Vegapunk? I'm dying to know that information. But meanwhile, back with Chopper, Robin, and Brook, Brook realizes that he is immune to this plague in a really funny moment. He gets infected, but nothing happens to him, and Chopper essentially calls him just a dead body because he doesn't have skin and like blood and all that type of stuff to be impacted. And for Brook, that's relieving but also offends him, so he kind of doesn't know how to feel about it. That was a funny moment. But what happens to Chopper here, I actually think is really interesting. So as he's figuring out that Brook is not infected and why, he's kind of like figuring out this disease a little more and what really makes it work. And he comes to some sort of revelation and he says like, could this possibly mean? But before we find that out, it turns out Chopper like nonchalantly also got infected. And during my live reaction, I was not happy about this. To me, Chopper has to be the one to cure this disease, and before he's able to even do anything, he catches this disease. So I'm thinking, Oda, why are you giving Chopper L's again? You're bagging on Chopper. But then I had some time to think about it, and it might be a good thing. First off, I think Chopper will end up figuring out a way to at least cure himself before he fully turns. But the other thing is, if he came to some sort of major revelation about this disease, maybe he could not only stop the effect, but like use it to his advantage. Like, this ice demons thing is terrifying at how it spreads and like makes people uncontrollable zombies essentially, but it also makes them really strong. I know I saw Ohara in his video mention ice demon monster point, but that might actually be possible. What if Chopper is able to use this in some way and power himself up? Maybe he's able to get rid of the negative effects and just use that boost in strength. At least that's what I'm hoping for out of this moment. I really hope it's not just Chopper taking another nonchalant L L. It doesn't seem that serious based off of like Brook and Chopper's reactions. It really just seems like he's like, oh my god, it's like a very gaggy moment. I don't expect Chopper to all of a sudden become an ice demon and become a problem. At least I hope not, but yeah, I'm hoping this turns into a big moment for Chopper where he's actually able to kind of turn it around and use it for his advantage. Or maybe this is something he's able to learn from and take post Wano and like develop more rumple balls and increase his strength a little more as well. We'll have to see. I'm hoping Chopper doesn't catch another L just for the sake of a gag. But now finally we get to the highlight of the chapter, the Usopp and Nami versus Page 1 and Ulti fight. Now first and foremost, both of these fights were fights I wanted to see from a long time ago. Like when I put these in my Wano matchup video from like 4, 5, 6 months ago, and I genuinely believed that Usopp and Nami had a chance in this battle. Now that doesn't mean I'm oblivious to the fact that realistically it wouldn't make sense. Like Page 1 and Ulti are Toby Roppo on the same level as X Drake, who's on the same level as other supernovas like Luffy and Zoro. So having Usopp and Nami beat these guys wouldn't really make sense. But to me, if you're looking at the matchups of this war, the Straw Hats are really out of their league here. They're up against 2 Yonko, 3 commanders, all these Toby Roppo members. So in my opinion, all of the Straw Hats had to level themselves up and at least be able to defeat like Toby Roppo level people for them to have a shot at winning this war. And I still think that it's possible that happens, but right now, Oda gives us a harsh reality check. This moment right here to me was Oda saying like, hey listen, the Straw Hats, it looks like they're fighting out of their league. Well, they are. Usopp and Nami haven't really showcased anything to really warrant them being able to defeat Toby Roppo members, and they are struggling hard. Right as we jump into this scene, we see Usopp just firing all these pop greens and none of them do anything. It's a big time reality check. Like the pop greens were like the big upgrade for Usopp post time skip, but against these crazy ass ancient zones, they're not gonna do a damn thing. But at the same time, that makes me hopeful because the enemies are only gonna get stronger from here on out. Like they have to level up. Like Usopp can't just keep using the pop greens for the future fights. So in my opinion, this kind of sets up the Straw Hats to all level up and Usopp and Nami to get stronger, to be able to defeat people like Ulti and Page 1 and people stronger in the future. But yeah, right now they don't have those power-ups. Usopp can't do a damn thing, and Ulti comes in for another headbutt, and we know it's another because Usopp says not again. So Usopp already, it looks like he tanked at least one of Ulti's headbutts, which shout out to Usopp for being able to do that. But this one pushed him over the edge and it cracks his skull and shatters his nose. And of course, like many people mentioned, this is a direct reflection to the Alabasta scene. And that scene is actually very reflective of this scene here, because back in that scene, we actually had Usopp giving his moment of Luffy will become the Pirate King after Miss Merry Christmas like laughed at Luffy for saying that he's gonna become the Pirate King. And of course, later in this chapter is actually Nami delivering that moment. So leading up to that, after Usopp gets bodied, Ulti walks over to Nami, picks her up, and Ulti is kind of pissed off saying like, hey, your dumb captain over there talks about he's gonna defeat Master Kaido and become the Pirate King. Why is he spewing this nonsense? Of course, Nami's terrified. She's like, oh my god, don't headbutt me. He's being an idiot. He's just joking around. But then Ulti confronts her like, say it then. Say that Luffy, your captain, will not become the Pirate King. And we knew Nami was not going to do that. And I think this was a very good moment for her as well, as like she's mumbling out the words. You have Usopp on the side saying, yeah, it's okay, Nami, like you could lie in this moment, don't worry about it. He also kind of says like, we've come so far already, don't lose your life here. But of course, Nami can't do it, and she says Luffy definitely will become the Pirate King. And it's a very well drawn panel here of Nami's emotions. Like she's like terrified, she's scared, she's crying, but it's like she just can't physically say that Luffy will not become the Pirate King. And to me, this is almost like her first moment saying it, because she said it back in Whole Cake Island in the fight against Cracker. But to me, that was almost like kind of a joke. She said Luffy's the man that will become the Pirate King. His ability to eat is second to none. So really it's almost like a gaggy moment. So her getting like a real like Luffy will become the Pirate King moment here is a big moment for her. And it's especially a big moment for somebody like Nami. Like if you think about her past, she was like the first Robin, right? She didn't trust anybody growing up because she had to go out and steal all that money, and she even went ahead and betrayed the Straw Hats. And really during the pre-time skip, she really had to learn to herself to trust the Straw Hats and believe in them, believe in Luffy and all of them and all their dreams. So it's shown that she's come a long way. But even like earlier in Wano, her and Usopp were talking about like if they were captured captured by the Beast Pirates, they would definitely be like leaking the secrets if they were tortured. But now you have this scene where if you realistically look at it, like Nami would probably die soon if she doesn't get saved by the MVP later on. But in her mind, she's about to die to ulti if she says that Luffy will become the Pirate King, and she still does. So that just goes to show Nami's development and her loyalty and belief in the crew, and it was a really good moment. Now, I will say, it became a really good moment, like after I had some time to kind of process it and like really think about the circumstances. But I do think this moment could have been executed better and made more impactful. This is part of the problem with so many things going on in Wano. Like, we haven't seen Usopp and Nami in so long, like 4 or 5 chapters or something, and we only spend like the third of the chapter focusing on this scene. So jumping in this battle, we kind of have to first process like what is happening. We're seeing like, oh, Usopp is damaged, they've been fighting for a while, Usopp is saying not again, he's been headbutted before, but then all of a sudden Usopp just gets his skull shattered. So to me, it's more like jarring and surprising rather than impactful, because we didn't really have that build up and we weren't really that immersed into the moment. Like a few chapters ago when we pretty much got an entire chapter of Kaido versus the Scabbards, we were fully invested in that battle because there were no other scenes being really intertwined in there. So we were completely focused on that action, and when the Scabbards had that peak moment at the end of all wounding Kaido with Odin's attack, it was a crazy dope moment because we were so into it. But with this, we're kind of jumping right into it. We have to kind of figure out what's happening, and then boom, the moment happens. Even comparing it to like Usopp's moment back in Alabasta, we saw that whole fight. We saw Usopp and Chopper struggling, Usopp getting rammed through all these walls and stuff. We saw their struggles before Usopp had his skull shattered, and that's why that one felt like way more dangerous, and it's like, oh my god, is Usopp actually okay? And that's what made his moment later on so much more impactful in my opinion. This one, you kind of have to let it sit with you and kind of have to like process it yourself a little more for it to really hit a lot harder. So storytelling wise, I definitely felt like it could have been executed better, and this is like a prime example of a victim to Oda off-paneling fights. But still, this was a very good moment for Nami. But now, let's talk about the MVP pulling up to stop the war, to save the day. Tama is here. Now listen, this I did not expect at all. If you saw my live reaction, I was just completely surprised. I was like, what? Tama's here. Alright, cool. Somebody saved Nami, but what is Tama doing here? So yeah, definitely surprising. Good thing that Nami got saved, but this definitely brings in a lot of questions. First off, how did Tama get here? Because she definitely wasn't on one of those samurai ships. People would have noticed her because she's with this big ass animal in Komichio right now. So if she didn't come on those ships, how did she get here? Because she has to cross that sea between Wano and Onigashima, and she's a devil fruit user, so like it's not like she could just swim that whole thing. Did she come with another ship? I think Caribou could be an option because I think he'll have a role in this war as well. Maybe Komichio could swim and she just came with Komichio that way. But yeah, I'm definitely interested to see how that gets explained. I do think one thing we could kind of confirm is that shadowy figure that was following Robin and Jinbei, that was definitely Tama or whoever brought her. Now, as far as Tama's role in this war, we all knew Tama had a big role in this war because of her powers. I didn't think she would actually come here because she's an 8-year-old kid, but her powers I definitely felt like had to play a role. And now of course she's with Usopp, who's definitely gonna use those balls to shoot at other gifters and turn them on their side. So that'll shift the tide of the war a little bit, but you also gotta remember there's only about 500 or so gifters. Turning all of them would definitely turn the tide a bit, but there's still a bunch of other beast pirates on Kaido's side. There's also a question of how many of these Dango balls can Tama make? Like, that's a lot. Like, if she has to pull out 500, that's a lot. But the bigger question a lot of people are wondering is, do these things work on actual zones? And some people actually speculate that she's gonna be able to control Page 1 and Ulti and turn them on her side. Now, I honestly do not like this idea. Like, if Tama is able to control these zones, even like momentarily, that's very broken. Like, that's literally a devil fruit to counter zone devil fruits. That makes it one of the most broken fruits ever. And of course, that begs the question, are we gonna get Tama taming Kaido, the TKK? So if Oda goes that route, I feel like it opens up way more doors for this fruit to be very broken. I generally just don't like that. I think what's more likely to happen is that Usopp and Nami and Tama just run away right now, and they just more so use that power to turn some of the gifters. Now, I am okay with the idea that she's able to use that power and take over some of the numbers, because they are artificially failed experiments, maybe kind of similar to Smile Devil Fruits, so that could kind of make sense, and Usopp did have that lie before of defeating the numbers. Speaking of the numbers, I forgot to mention this earlier, but it looks like one of them is heading towards Robin, Chopper, and Brook right now, so they'll probably have to deal with one of them soon, but hey, Usopp might pull up and fire a DB Dango and control the number. But yeah, for Tama, I think her role is more so just turning the tide a little bit and controlling maybe the numbers and some of the gifters and headliners. By the way, we did see another gifter in this panel of showcasing chasing Luffy, where this guy has a panda growing out of his ass. Like, Oda is just having a blast with these. But yeah, Tama's arrival is definitely interesting. I think it's a big boost to the Samurai Alliance. Maybe she brought other people as well. I mentioned Caribou. I also think it's very possible she brought more of those crazy ass strong animals with her to kind of help out the Alliance as well. Tama's arrival definitely changes things up. Of course, she saved Nami and Usopp. Now, I really do hope Nami and Usopp still figure some things out and overcome like their weaknesses later on, get a power-up of some sort, and maybe get revenge on Page 1 and Ulti. But for right now, they're probably gonna run away with Tama, and all we can do is speculate because that's the end of the chapter. And this was a very, very good chapter, and it came really, really close to becoming an absolute banger, but to me, it's still just a damn good chapter overall. It was a densely packed chapter with a lot of stuff to it. I just felt like that Usopp and Nami moment could have been better executed overall, and that's the only reason it did not get an absolute banger. But what about you guys? What did you think of One Piece chapter 995? Do you have any predictions for One Piece chapter 996? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, please hit that like button. It helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm. If you want to keep up to date with this channel, you gotta hit that subscribe button, hit that bell as well to get notified. The King's Pirate Crew might be over 7,000 members by the time this video goes up. That will be another big milestone hit, so thank you guys so much for your support. If you want to interact with your fellow crew members, the King's Pirate Discord is linked in the description below. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. I'm DKing4, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!